Hello, true believers. This is Babbles Only, and I am. We are doing another vlog, and this vlog is something that pertains to what is happening to us today. And I had a chat with Jim Bob, and we kind of touched up on this subject over here, which is the COVID vaccine and how it is being forced upon us, and how what my thoughts are about it, what my opinions are about it when it comes to the COVID vaccine based on my experience and what is common knowledge. So the first thought that kind of came to mind to me was that the COVID vaccine was, it made me think of the movie Children of Men. Okay. And everybody who's been following me over the years knows that I love this movie, and that this movie it's not like huge special effects where it's like where you'll have aliens or superpowers or superheroes or things of that nature that's kind of prevalent in today's blockbuster movies. Or I mean, don't get me wrong, I like those. I like the Avengers, maybe not so much the other DC kind of Batman versus Superman. So but so it doesn't have that kind of theme to it, but there's something else that I enjoyed about this movie, and it's been a long time since I've seen it. I haven't really had it. I wish I had time to sit down and kind of analyze and watch this movie, because it's one of those movies that you could like watch over and over again and see something new each time. But I remember back when this movie wasn't very popular. It wasn't, I think, from what I'm hearing online, from what I'm reading online, is it actually lost money because it wasn't widely released. And me personally, I think I saw this movie and I bought it from back then, when I think when I was here in the Philippines, and I watched it on a pirated DVD when pirated DVDs were still a thing back then. Now everything is streaming, so it's buying the DVDs was just a, well, you could just skip the process and just watch it now online and stream it online. But back then, internet and compression rates of movies weren't that advanced yet. So for me to enjoy a movie, the high quality, I still preferred it on DVD. Streaming wasn't, like I said, and the compression wasn't that advanced like it is now. You can watch a high definition movie. So I watched this on a good copy of a DVD. They call it original or original copy versus pirated copy, which is one where somebody just watches it in a movie and has one of their cameras on, which is really terrible, terrible sound, terrible video quality. But when it's actually a copy from an original, and it pretty much has the same quality. So, but back to what I was saying about the movie. What I love the movie is so much was the cultural context of what would happen, and if there was no more hope. And if you haven't seen the movie, it's hard for me to recommend a movie, because when people recommend a movie to me and they say it's really good, I end up becoming disappointed because I have these expectations that are hard to manage. Same thing when I saw Napoleon Dynamite. I know people will swear how funny that is, but a friend of mine was, when it first came out, was telling me how hilarious it was. He couldn't stop laughing. Everybody was laughing, and I said, okay, well, I'm sure this friend of mine is my friend. He wouldn't lead me astray. He wouldn't be trolling me and telling me how funny it was. So when I finally saw it, and I think my problem was, I think I saw it on one of those Blockbuster DVDs. That's when Blockbuster was still a thing back then, also. And I watched it, and it was awkward, and it wasn't even funny. And I'll admit, eventually it'll become funny to you, but not funny, haha, but funny, like as in Saturday Night Live is not funny. If Saturday Night Live back in my day was a thing, everybody watched it on a Saturday night. There's nothing else to do anyway at around 11:30 at night on a Saturday. if you're growing up, that's what you watch. So, but when you're actually sitting through it, it's not really funny when you're watching it. But what is funny is when you come back to school on Monday, you see your friends, and you make references to it. It's the reference that is hilarious. And if you do something that's from Saturday Night Live, just like with the cowbells, with I forgot the guy's name, but the cowbells, and the next day, the back then, that's where uh, before memes were invented, that's how memes was then you make a reference to it, and that's where it was hilarious. That's where you laugh because, oh, I saw this, or I recognize this from a Saturday Night Live skit. But anyway, back to Children of Men. What actually will happen? So if you haven't seen it, I suggest you go see it because like I said, I think it's an obra de arte. It's a masterpiece. But let's get to the. If you haven't seen it, or you haven't seen it in a long time and forget, like me, I had to refresh my memory on what the movie is about. Let's take a look at the trailer, and then I'll kind of discuss what what I remember, what happened in the movie, and my thoughts on it. So let's look at the trailer and refresh our memory. So that's the first thing what we're gonna do. Play.
I can't really remember when I last had any hope. And I certainly can't remember when anyone else did either.
So the opening of the trailer is hope is lost. There is no hope. So let's continue.
Because really, since women stopped being able to have babies, what's left to hope for?
So that's the premise of this movie. That's the opening of this movie, is that people have become sterile or infertile, and women. This was 18 years, and no one has been able to have a baby. And let's go on to the rest of it. And what will happen if there's no more? What it's saying is there's no more future when you can't have, when the species or the human race is no longer going to exist. So let's continue with the commercial. So that gives you an idea of what society will be like if it knows it can't continue anymore as a human race.
The world was stunned today by the death of Diego Ricardo, the youngest person on the planet. The youngest person on Earth was 18 years, 4 months, 20 days, 16 hours.
So it opens up with the youngest person, the last baby that was born, 18 years old, because it's supposed to be 18 years ago. And it opens up with that person getting killed, getting murdered. And I think the premise, or from what I remember, was he's become a celebrity. Everybody is talking about him because he's supposedly the last hope, because he represents the future, and he's the youngest person. He's supposed to be the youngest, so he's the most likely person to be the last person on Earth. And imagine that, if you're that person. Well, he ends up getting stabbed, or ends up getting killed because he refused a autograph, because he became a celebrity, because he was like the last person being born. And it goes on to, so it was kind of ironic. So that's the person that represents hope, that represents the future, all of a sudden dies. And then it goes on to show, well, what
And 8 minutes old.
The ultimate mystery. Why are women infertile? Some say it's genetic experiments, pollution. Why do you think we can't make babies?
So this is the premise. It's like they don't know. They don't even go into, but I don't think it's really important. It probably is important when he kind of says, what is it? Pollution, genetics. It doesn't, like I said, it doesn't matter at this point where it came from. It's just that for the last 18 years, nobody's been able to have babies. So in one generation, the human race is going to no longer exist. And so let's continue with the movie, and I'll give my analysis on it. So I wanted to make my comparisons to this movie, the COVID vaccine. What else is also the Mark of the Beast? Now, I wasn't I wasn't the one to make the comparison. There's several things online, but that was the first thing that came to my mind was when this vaccine was being forced upon people. Even the local president over here said that you're going to be arrested if you don't take the vaccine. So the first thing that came to mind is the mark of the beast, and the mark of the beast comes in many forms. I've said probably in the past that the mark of the beast, just like with any Bible reference or any Bible story or any Bible citation, that it's an. I always say that the Bible is like a metaphor, an allegory, a simile, an idiom. I don't want to say personification, but those are all like high school con methods or way of comparing things. This is similar to this. So in the metaphor, the mark of the beast, like I said, it's come in many forms in the past. Anything where is forced upon you, like I said, one of the famous things that people say about the mark of the beast is that it's like Social Security, where if you look at the actual Bible text, it says you cannot transact, you cannot buy and sell without a mark of the beast on you. It's either on your hand or on your forehead or somewhere where it's going to be visible. And I've always said you could make that argument or the metaphor that you could say the same thing with credit cards or Social Security number, where you can't even open a bank account without a Social Security number. You can't even open up a credit card account without a Social Security number. A Social Security number is a way to track you, to control you by the government. So that's where the comparisons of the mark of the beast came from. So now the same thing with the COVID vaccine. It's also been known that COVID vaccine has this like COVID vaccine passport. Now you're allowed to travel again freely if you get the COVID vaccine. So this is where people make the comparison that the COVID vaccine is similar to the mark of the beast. Same thing with like you can't have open restaurants or you can't do transactions, you can't buy or sell. Just like in the Bible text, that's what the mark of the same thing when it comes to COVID. But let's continue with the movie so we can refresh people's memories. And what I wanted to show also where is the brain dead cult comes in when there is no hope and when there is no future. So let's continue.
Anymore.
Doesn't matter. It's all over.
So he says it doesn't matter what caused it. It's going to be all over anyway, and we're not going to be able to if we haven't found a cause or a cure for it by now. We're not going to. It won't matter. So I probably will get into the subject matter of then what do people do? What happens? So let's continue.
In 50 years. It's too late.
Move along! Move along!
Hello, Theo. How have you been? I'm sorry about the theatrics. Police have been a pain lately.
I haven't seen you for nearly 20 years.
Need your
Now, Clive Owen, I love Clive Owen. I think he's a great actor. I loved him. You know where I loved him? I loved him in The Bourne Identity, where he was one of the CIA killers. And I like his character there because he wasn't really a bad guy. And he just kind of died with where he was just like he was just doing his job, like whether it was he's just kind of programmed, but he executed it very well. So Clive Owen, great actor, and he is the hero in this movie. And the reason why he's the hero in this movie, now you're gonna make let's make the metaphor and comparison over here, is it's now when I make comparisons or metaphors, I usually involve myself somehow. So let's figure out who I am in this discussion.
help. Not for me. Girl. Need to get her to the coast. Past security checkpoints.
It's hard for me to look at you. He had your eyes.
So why did you come to me?
So that was the question. Why did you pick me out of all the people in this world? Why did you come to me? Why you could have picked somebody else that's not so cynical? Why me? Why out of everyone? Why me? And here's the answer. And this is where you kind of everybody will agree or disagree, but this is where I kind of come in this whole discussion.
I trust you.
Aha!
Show him.
Aha! Trust. He was the only one that she could trust. Now, who is that person in this, not only in this entire country, not in the, in this country, in the entire world, but me? I'm the only person that you can trust here in the Philippines, probably in the entire world. I remember when I was in prison. I go, you know why? What makes me so dangerous? What makes me so popular? What makes me the interest of so many people? Because I'm the only one that can be trusted here in the whole entire Philippines. Not the politicians, not the police, not all these cam girls, not all these bar girls, not all these taxi drivers. Me. I'm the only one that can be trusted here. When I was in prison, I looked at them and I said, I'm the only one that can be trusted here in this prison. They said, yep, no, there's nobody you can trust here in prison. Not the police guards, not the warden, not the person next to you, me, only me. And they said, yep, you're the only one that could be trusted here. Number two is probably I could be the only one trusted here in the whole entire country. And they said, yep, you get no arguments from me there. So trust. So this is where I come into this movie is I am the only one that can be trusted. I've said that several times. People have trusted me. But the problem is, over here, if you trust the wrong people, you could be betrayed. It could be just as simple as going to Shakey's or Jollibee, and people here will betray your trust. I'm the only one here in the entire world that will not betray your trust. So let's continue. And there's no need for me to betray trust because I'll give several reasons why. So let's continue with the movie. So this movie is pretty funny.
I know it's at stake.
Not funny, haha, but interesting because it has so many references, art references, religious references that if you're not familiar with them, just like that scene where if I go back, that scene where this is supposed to be, from what I remember from my art, is Botticelli's. My art 101 is Botticelli's Birth of Venus. You know, she's copying how she is portrayed right here, which is supposed to look like Botticelli's Birth of Venus. So that's just kind of a side.
I know it's at stake.
We have to meet the boat.
What is this boat?
The Human Project have sent a boat.
The Human Project.
It's the greatest.
So all of a sudden, there's no hope, and our friend over here, our protagonist, is cynical because of the whole situation, and he's resorted to becoming numb, going into vices like smoking, drinking. He's always constantly smoking and drinking, and then because there's no hope. So what's the point? I do agree. I could see in his defense. And his other vices is, I think, dog racing, gambling also. So when people are in the situation, they just become numb. And they just don't think about it. So when people deal with having no hope in different ways, and that's probably what I wanted to probably discuss, where the brain dead cult comes in. So let's continue with this.
Best minds in the world working for a new society.
Your baby is the miracle the whole world has been waiting for.
We will find a way to get you to the Human Project, I promise you.
We're almost there, kid. We're almost there.
So that's the pretty much in a nutshell the movie Children of Men. So how do people? So let's talk about how do people cope with this. So that's one way you cope. Another thing that the director or the story or the book talked about was how do people deal with once you. It's like the first year so people probably resort to hedonism and but how bored or how tired will you get to that? So in this situation, the people just go back to work and just become numb, and how people deal with having no hope or no future. But also in the movie, it talks about there's religion becomes more important, pets become more important. It discusses how people deal with the situation of no hope and no future, and people become extreme, violent, dystopia, and they get involved in these cults. And that's probably where I want to get into what the brain dead cult comes in. Is there are many reasons why they do what they do, and one of the many reasons why is because they have no hope, they have no future. If you ever look at the people, and they have a lot in common, and there are a lot about them. I remember a long time ago when I did a live stream, one of these people came in that I would attack my channel, and first he did this attacking and things like I forgot his name, but eventually we went on and found out his history, where he's got no family, he gambled all his money away, and his health is deteriorating because he didn't take care of his health, and he's on disability, and he has no children. And so that's what these people are doing now, and their defense is they're finding hope, they're finding purpose in life. What is their purpose in life? What is their reason to get up and go on and move on? And for him, he just goes to work so he just has something to do, so it keeps his mind occupied. And same thing with these cult followers, the brain dead cult situation, is that they're looking for a reason, they're looking for a meaning in their lives, and attacking people that represent hope, or the people that give a future, like me, because of what I've done, because of my actions, because of my legacy. And these people can't say that. I mean, Joy, for his example, is a very public person. She's an example. Everybody's talking about how I'm trafficking children. Well, Joy is one of those children. She's got to be 30 years old now. I started Bebel's only 13 years ago. She was, if that's how you define, she was like 17 at the time. She's a child herself. Well, like all children, they become friends and lovers and mothers, and she's got 2 children herself. Time is constant. It continues. Now, my legacy is, if anything that happened with Bebel's only, whether it succeeds or it fails or it moves on, is we can all agree that Joy was helped, and that she is in a better place now, and her children are in a better place now. It's like I helped a generation now because of me and my actions alone. I took it upon myself. Okay, nobody else can say that except me, especially in this vlogging community. That's why I'm in a league of my own. Okay, and this, of course, this type of action, this type of skill, this, you might even consider this kind of power, this ability to touch other people's lives and make a huge difference, is going to scare and freak out a lot of people, because it is a lot of power just for one person to wield that nobody else can do, except me. Now, Brain Dead and his cult followers are going to be upset by that, because they've got their spaghetti dinners, and everybody knows these spaghetti dinners are what? It doesn't mean anything. These feeding programs doesn't mean anything. It's like welfare. You feed them for one day, you're all happy about yourself, okay? But what are you really do? Are you making a difference? No, you're making a difference for that one moment, and you feel all jolly or happy that you get to feed them. But for me, how I make a difference is, like I said, with Joy, is I can't feed her for a day. At least she doesn't ever, and her children never have to worry about, just because even Brain Dead acknowledged, just because you were born in America, that you have every advantage in the world now, that you never have to experience hunger. So nobody can argue about my legacy and what I have done and what my abilities are, which is Brain Dead and his cult followers, of course, can never do. And of course, they're going to be very upset, and they're going to be very angry about that. You know, he already said in my live stream that's what he said. Oh, he's going to be very angry if I go back to doing that. I remember I had a conversation with Quincy, and he was wondering what the future is going to be when it comes to Bevels Only, because he was talking about not only the future of Bevels Only, but the future of other people, and how it's going to affect them. So the movie, if you look at the movie, it's going to have these cult people, these cult followers. They're violent, they're angry, and this is the same reason why, is because they have no future, they have no hope. Okay, and everybody's going to be attacking the man over here that can be only trusted. Am I cynical? Yeah, absolutely. I'm just as cynical as this person. Why? Why would you be cynical? Oh, I don't know why. Oh, let's go through the list. Right? I've been in prison. I'm proven an innocent person for being in prison. I've been vlogging longer than anyone has ever has, but I still can't make a penny and I have made a big difference in people's lives, and I'm still persecuted for it, is the ironic part. Would that make it, does that make me cynical? Yes, but I can still be the person that can be trusted. I'm the only one now. Let me know in the comments, who are you gonna trust, right? Even the Brain Dead cult followers are going to have to agree that if you have to choose who you're gonna trust, me or Brain Dead, that's hands down me, right? Well, what's your argument? What's your evidence? Well, the girls that I deal with are still virgins. The girls that he deals with, he milks for free, and you know what he does with them, and the results are he gets them pregnant, or it's kind of like he got trapped. So you know what he does with them. And he's under this, and he uses this premise because of his money, because he's exploiting that the girls are poor and they have to be in a bar. I think that's what he said. He met his wife at a bar. She has to be at a bar. You're not going to find the right girl in a bar. I mean, that's just hands down. If she's at a bar, it's already too late. You know what she's there for. So that's just the reality. Yeah, I don't look for girls in a bar. I look for girls that are in their natural setting. Of course, I have evidence, documented evidence, that I never had sex with them. And of course, people perceive that I am, but I have a medical legal document that's saying I don't. And we'll get into that. I've been meaning to get into that another time, but then of course you're going to have some stupid comment. Oh, just because a girl still has her hymen doesn't mean that she's still a virgin. So you're saying I could still have sex with them, but they would still have their hymen intact? Okay, maybe that's an attack on my manhood, but that's not biologically possible for anyone to have sex and still continue to have their hymen. But anyway, that's just how ridiculous these comments or these cult followers are. So it's been established. So let's establish a few things, okay? And then this is why. And at the time when Brain Dead made the video attacking about me was because he doesn't have a family. He doesn't have a family out here, as you can see. He knows that the girl that he was with, milking the cow for free, he wouldn't even marry because she was only with him because of his money. And then when she got too old, and he wasn't interested in her also, because of that reason, that's why they would never get married. And she didn't want to have a baby with him at the same time. So the point I'm making over here is he didn't have a future. There was nothing to live for him. He was just living for the now. All right. Even now, you can make the argument: is he really? Does he really have a family, or is he just a vehicle, or just money? Because, like I said, you can't make a wife out of a bar girl. Okay. I mean, that's just simple. I don't know where people are going to make arguments. Did they meet her at a bar? Yes. Does that make her a bar girl? Well, that's what girls at bars that you pick up are called. Can you make a wife out of it? No, absolutely. You can by paper, but it's not going to be a real relationship or a real family. And that's where they resort into this dystopian society where people just are resort to violence, and they want to hurt, and they want to feel pain, and they want other people to feel their pain. And I understand that. I understand what pain feels like. If anybody has been through a lot of pain, it's me. Okay, but you have to decide. If you're weak, then you're going to want to cause other people pain. But if you're strong, then you want to save these other people from the pain that you went through. So one of the examples is Hero. I made sure that he didn't go through the pain of a divorce. I remember talking to him one time, and when I came home, and this is a funny story, this is kind of a personal story, and I was actually in the car. He didn't know I was coming home from prison after almost, you're talking about going on 3 years. It's a long time. I mean, it got to a point where after 1 year, he went out when he visited me in prison. He goes, "You've been in prison so long, I'm beginning to believe what people were saying about you, that you are guilty of those things, because why would you be in prison for so long?" I remember that statement he said to me, and it just kind of haunted me for a long time, that he was beginning to lose hope also. And one of the things, or one of the where he already lost hope was there, all of a sudden, he didn't know I was coming home. I was in the car, and he noticed when he was the boss told him, "Hey, I have groceries in the car. This is their routine." He goes, kind of grumbles, but he'll go help his mom with the groceries. And then he noticed that there was a person inside the car, and he wasn't expecting it to be me. And I said to him, "Who'd you think it was?" And he said, "I thought mommy was bringing home a boyfriend." Is what he said. And I was in shock, and I told him, "How did it feel?" It felt I was betrayed. So you're saying the only man for your mom is me? He goes, "Yeah, of course, you're my dad. And then she's bringing home another man." So he felt so betrayed. "And how relieved and how happy were you that it was me?" He goes, it was, he said he couldn't describe the feeling. It went from his mom bringing home a boyfriend or another man home to meet him. It's like like a stepdad or something like that. Like, I'm gonna have to call him Uncle Bob. "Hey, my name is Bob, Uncle Bob," right? Which I have experienced myself, and over again, which is a terrible. I remember it, and I would never do that to Hero. I would never do that to my kids, because it was such a painful, agonizing experience. And I vowed that I would never do that. Now, of course, here in the Philippines, temptation is prevalent. It's one of the most situations I deal with on a constant basis. I mean, it's so easy for me to, of course, I want to be selfish and just go off with you're talking about so many girls that it's like I wish I could go back in the time machine and save myself for, and then this is it, and have, it's like, if you can have a choice of any women in the whole entire country, which I have, uh, which one would I choose is something that always, and I've been presented, and I could probably show you a video where I've been presented with the same situation where the girls get to a point where, why don't you leave your family and come with me and we can live happily ever after? And of course, the temptation, the thought has definitely crossed my mind several times, but I always go back to the kids, my love for the kids. When they were born, ever since I vowed that I would always cherish and protect them and never let anything bad happen to them or do anything to hurt them. So it's my where my because of my strength towards humanity and another human being, especially my child, and I understand why, but to be strong and not do that to your children. But it's over there in America, people leave their children all the time. And I mean, just go back to what it was like to have a stepdad, or what it's like to have an Uncle Bob, and to turn around and say, okay, is that what you want to say? It's like, well, it happened to me and I lived, and so I can do it to my children. It's like my parents did it to me, so I can do it to my children. No, the vicious cycle ends here. It's like, that's not going to happen. Do I find the balance? Yes. Is it hard to find the balance? Yes. Because I'm just a human being also. I'm just a man also. I don't do drugs. I don't do cigarettes. I don't do drinking, especially only on special occasions. If somebody said toast to the graduation or toast to the new bride and groom, I'll drink to it. And I will indulge in it's moderation. I always say moderation is the key, and variety is the spice of life. You just have to find a balance. So I don't need that. I don't smoke. People ask why I don't smoke. Or I'd rather, me and Jim Bob were talking about, I'd rather spend the money on a big juicy steak. It tastes better than cigarettes. Period. I mean, addiction or no addiction, I'm more addicted to food, and of course, pretty girls. As a man, we enjoy young. We don't enjoy old. As a man, we enjoy pretty. We don't enjoy ugly. As a man, we enjoy intimacy versus the bar girlfriend experience. Okay, I guess if you don't know any better, then the bar girlfriend experience is good enough. But once you've experienced intimacy on a level like I have, then it's pretty much going. It's not satisfying. And at my age, it's like satisfaction is more important, because I don't have too much bullets left in my chamber, and I'd rather save it for those special moments. But anyway, I remember, so that's kind of a story. I don't know if I've shared that before. I remember Hiro sharing it with me, and it was an interesting story that I might share or make references to again. And that story about him thinking that the boss was bringing home, and in her defense, like all women, they'll get lonely and they have their needs also, just like men. Maybe the frequency is not the same as men, but the need is still there, and that he was the thought crossed his mind, and I mean, what else could it be? Who else could it be? And then when he found out it was me, he was shocked. He goes, I can't believe it. Is this just a dream? And I hugged him. He had this terrible pandemic hair. He was out of shape. He hasn't been exercising. But it was so, to hug him and to be free again it's just like being born again, being alive again, and coming back from the dead. It's weird how it's been 6 months since I've been out of prison. It's so easy to forget the misery that I've experienced in the past, and I always want to come back to it and talk about it so we don't forget. But it is easy to forget, and it's easy to move on because there's so much to enjoy. What is the bright side of all this experience is because number one, I gained a lot of knowledge. Number two is perspective. sometimes I lose perspective and I just think about that time, and then I gain my perspective again. I became a better father, I became a better husband, become a better lover, become a better friend because of these experiences. And I have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to share now. And I'll share that who is ever willing to listen. And you're not going to be able to get that from Brain Dead and his cult followers. You know, what has their lot in life is what have they done? And they could do so much, but instead they'll attack. They're violent, they're angry, and they're not alone. This is what children of men portray how they turned into. So they go into this, they look for their cult leader. I asked Jim Bob, when you saw his first video about me attacking my family, where he didn't blur out the faces, and I asked him what was his reaction. He said, "What an asshole! He doesn't even know. He doesn't even have the evidence. He doesn't even know what's going on, and then he's attacking his family." So his reaction is, "What an asshole!" And there's a lot of people like that in this world. They're just assholes. And why? Because they're weak and they go through experiences which I have experienced more than my share. But it doesn't make me an asshole. But the assholes need a cult leader, and they need somebody to unify with and unify against. So we've got the assholes versus the only person that could be trusted, not only in the entire Philippines, probably in the whole entire world, and that's me. So trust, just like the Clive Owen character here, Theo, I'm the only one that can be trusted. Let me know in the comments what if you have to ask who do you trust more, Brain Dead or me, right? Which one's a virgin, which one's pregnant and trapped, then who milks the cow for free and doesn't even fix their teeth, then hands down the answer is obvious. But let's get back to, before I go into, this thing is going already almost an hour, is what the COVID vaccine, what I think it does, and why I wanted to relate it or connect it to the children of men, is because I remember when I was discussing with Jim Bob, I go, it's like, what are the side effects of this vaccine? Because it's genetically engineered. Now, there's arguments or there's theories that the COVID itself was man-made or genetically engineered. And I wouldn't be surprised if it is, because the technology is advanced enough to do that. So it wouldn't surprise me, because it's just like that worst Mission Impossible movie where people would invent diseases so they can make a lot of money from the vaccine. So same thing that's happened over here is you got all these drug companies on this race, and they're making this because it's not because they want to save the human race. Because if you think about it, you have a 99% chance of surviving. More than 99% chance of surviving. Hell, there's people walking around with no symptoms from it. Hey, that's not even a disease if that's the case. But we asked the question here when one of our discussions, Jim Bob, was that, are you going to take the vaccine? He says, hell no. And I said, and for me, my response is a couple of reasons. Number one, I already had the COVID. Okay, yes, it does exist. Yes, it messes with your taste buds. I could hardly taste anything. I could taste if it's salty or sweet, but I couldn't taste what kind of food, what it is that I was eating. But then after a week, it came back to normal. So it was no big deal. Other than that, I felt just like a big flu. And like with anytime I have a fever, I take acetaminophen and some ibuprofen and went back to sleep while I was in prison. And you're talking about around 800 people in prison, and nobody died from COVID. We went through it probably like a month of where everybody was just everybody was getting the disease while we were in prison, but nobody died. And there's plenty of old people there. There's plenty of people. If anybody should die from COVID, it should be people in prison. Now, in the big prison, in the big Muntinlupa prison, the only people that died were like the very richest of the drug lords, the very richest of the politicians. Those are the people that died in the long prison. And we're all going, why is it only the rich people, the powerful politicians, or the powerful drug lords that are dying? There was one news reporter was insinuating, are you just faking their death? So now that they're dead, they could be released and you got paid off, and they just changed their name and changed their identity, which is the easiest thing to do, and they're free now. Is that a possibility? We'll never know. Only the people that actually died. But based on my own experience is, if anybody should be dying, it should be the people in prison, because they have no access to medicine, they have no access to good nutrition, they have no access to a healthy lifestyle. If anybody should be dying left and right, it should be the people in prison, because of the conditions, of the non-healthy conditions. And you would think that out of that sample of almost 800 people, that there would be somebody there with the preconditions to die from COVID. And the answer is no. Nobody died from COVID while I was in prison. And what does that say about the disease? And how, so number one is I already had it. And number two, the vaccine is genetically engineered, and you don't know what the side effects it's going to be in the long term. You know, what are the 5-year results? What are the 5-year follow-ups? And that's one of the first things that kind of came into mind to me, was the children of men. Is what if, since it's genetically engineered, you know, what are the side effects? Okay, this is not like the vaccine for polio or for chicken pox or for measles or mumps or rubella, where I gladly had the kids vaccinated for that, because you know the 10-year study, the 20-year study, that, I mean, it's been around for hundreds of years, and people have survived to it and adapted to it. So you're talking about the risks versus the rewards of not getting the risks are very minimal to none, versus the rewards of never having to go through chickenpox or never having polio, which could kill you or leave you with a disability. I've seen people who can't, with disabilities, who have from the polio. It just killed their it just killed their musculoskeletal system. So it's not like that. This one, you have no idea. It's been around for just months, and you don't know what the side effects are. And what if you don't know that? You can't say, what if the side effects were it just makes people sterile? You can't have any kids. So now you got a whole generation of people that, if it's forced upon everybody, you can't travel, you can't do business, you can't buy and sell, you can't transact unless you can't go to school. What happens if all of a sudden it says they can't play football because you're not vaccinated, and it's forced upon people? Then you have to choose whether you want to be sterile. I mean, it's okay if you're sterile, if you're brain dead, and the cult followers, it's good that they're all sterile, and so they could be all in their bachelor courses. But what about these young people? What about these young football players? What about the millennials or the new generation that's coming up? Is it okay for them to be sterile? And then who's going to take care of us if they are? Who's going to continue the society, civilization, our legacy, if this genetically engineered COVID vaccine anyway, has made everybody sterile like children of men? You know, what is going to happen to society? Well, this is what's going to happen. Everybody's gonna turn into brain dead. And you want to be brain dead and be a cult follower, so as your way of mechanism and coping. And I'm gonna end up being the only person that could be trusted, which is this person over here, and I'm the only one that society can hope. I'm the only one trusted with the hope in the future generation. If I was in this movie, I would be this character over here, and all the other people rioting and causing violence and killing everybody would be brain dead, and the cult followers is where they'd be in this movie. So everything, the Bible, movies, it's all art imitating life, life imitating art. I mean, they all get influences from each other. It's just it's all connected. So that's one thing I've been looking around. I haven't seen it, but somebody, like I said, several people have already, religious groups or other groups have already made connections of making comparisons to this as being the mark of the beast, but no COVID vaccine. But nobody has ever. I think I'm the first one that says, well, what happens if it's not just the mark of the beast, but it's like children of men, where it's made everybody sterile, and that's the cause of. And then what will happen? So this is a foreshadowing. Foreshadowing is like, okay, what's going to happen in the future with this COVID vaccine? And well, you don't know if it'll make people sterile. I mean, when you're messing with genetics, it's playing God, and playing God has its consequences, and it's usually bad consequences. And one of the consequences that's possible, you can't come to me and say, oh, that's not possible, that it's going to make people sterile. How do you know? That's what's going to happen, or maybe people did that, or what is it, what's in there? Because this is about the COVID vaccine. It's about control, it's about tracking people, it's about invading people's privacy. The government wants to track you, wants to monitor you. This is like 1984, where Big Brother is watching you. So this is, and they all want to, and they're all saying it because, oh, it's for your own good. And all of a sudden it's like all your freedoms have been given up for your own good. A person wants to, what is it? There's like a person that just wants to open up a restaurant, and then all this police with horses and riot gear is going to shut it down just because he wants to make you a sandwich. And that's what his society has turned into. That's what this cult, and what really makes what they want to, if that happens, if there's no hope, there's no future, then there is no humanity. And Brain Dead and the cult and his cult followers is an example of what they will resort to if they have no hope and they have no future. And that's the main cause. Could you give them hope? Could you give them future? Yes, absolutely. But it's free will, and there's always arguments about free will versus destiny or fate. And I always kind of believe it's a combination of both. You have free will, but once you make that choice, then there is a preordained or destiny that comes with that decision. That everything, it's like this happened because of me going to prison. You can make the argument is I already made that decision when I came here to the Philippines. So you have to know that. Same thing over here. If you're gonna come here to the Philippines, and why, are you looking for companionship? Are you looking for, once you made that and something bad happens to you, it's not the decision whether I went to go meet the girls. It's because I already made the decision to come here to the Philippines. Do I accept it? Should I stay? Should I can't come back or no? It's kind of something that I argue within myself. I argue. It's like, is it worth going to 2.5 years of prison? So what are we talking about here, right? For the what about the 10 years where I enjoyed so much of it, so much of the experiences that I could have never, if I would have just stayed in America, I would be just working and I would just be miserable. I'd be like, you get, what is it, that song, you get to take 16 tons and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. Because in America, it doesn't matter how much you make, you're always going to be spending more than what you actually make, which is the definition of being poor, while the definition of being rich is making more money, passive or active or passive income, so making more than what you're actually spending, which is impossible to do in America. There's always things to spend money on, ridiculous, for the most stupidest, ridiculous things. Everybody talks about, like, for example, Manny Pacquiao, how you would think that he would have a lot of money because he's won a lot of fights and he's made millions and millions of dollars, not pesos, dollars. But if you think about it, the one fight is not even enough to pay for one of his wife's bags. Okay, if you look at his if you look at his fights, and he makes, for example, net, gross, he makes $10 million. Say gross, he makes like $10 million. Net, after everybody gets paid off, he makes like $3 or $4 million. Okay, net. Okay, after he pays taxes and after he gets all his costs, after all his expenses, he makes $3 or $4 million. But the problem is, one of his wife's bags is $5 million. Okay, there are $5 million bags that exist. So how is he supposed to get rich when he's only making $2 or $3 million, when one of his wife's bags, just one of his wife's bags, is like $5 million? That's why he has to run for president, because his wife is spending more money than he can make, even if he wins all these boxing matches. Okay, so that's why he's going to be continually poor. Now, for someone who makes only $100 a day but only spends $50 of it, then that person is obviously going to be richer than Manny Pacquiao, without even winning any of these championship boxing titles. So back to what I was saying about my decision. So how did I go off on this tangent? Because my decision to come here to the Philippines. Okay, and I've enjoyed so much. I've enjoyed so much experience. I got to spend time with my family instead of just working. I didn't sell my soul. I didn't continue selling my soul working for the man in America. Is that worth it? Because one of the things that you're going to experience is, and you can definitely make arguments for both of them, because I can't have the experience that I had over here that I cherish very much. I mean, I met a lot of beautiful people, and that's what gives life meaning. That's what gives happiness, is these wonderful experiences. Versus I have contemporaries. If you look at their life, and if you look at, yes, they have a lot of money, but it's like, it's not, they've got nice, I could continue to have my house in the hills, just like my other contemporaries. They keep working, they're making so much money, they got all these toys, they got all these cars, they've got all these nice vacations. And for example, one of my friends, what did he do with his money? Well, he goes to Vegas constantly. Why? Because he was always comped. And that's how he justified working so hard, is because he enjoyed the thrill of gambling, and he was able to control it. It's not losing his house, it's not losing his family because of the gambling, but he's able to make enough. And that's what his lot in life was that he would go to gamble in Vegas every weekend. And I said, no, I don't get any thrill out of gambling. And for me, it's all about the human connection. It's all about the humanity. And where are we at with this? When there is no hope, when there is no future, this is where the humanity gets lost. And then that's probably what I want to talk about here in the culture here in the Philippines, is why there's no humanity, is because there is no future. When people are not thinking about their future, they could have several kids, they could have hundreds and hundreds of kids, but they're not thinking about their future. They're just thinking about their now. And then that's where the humanity gets lost. So you have to be careful when you're coming here to the Philippines. Yes, it's an absolutely wonderful place with a lot of wonderful people, but there's also a lot of people over here where they have lost their connection with humanity, and it's just getting worse. Okay, and this is where a lot of the brain dead cult followers also is. They've lost their humanity, and they'll attack anyone, even innocent people, because they have no humanity. And why is that? Because they have no future, they have no hope. And why is it that they have no future, they have no hope? Well, just the same reason, because they don't have the strength to overcome it. And you can make a difference. You can just stop attacking people and make a difference, just like me. I could be just cynical all day and just attack people, but I'd rather do something positive and do something constructive and make a difference. And my legacy, what is my legacy? You've seen it already. It's like with Hero, his football, he's become a great athlete. Not only has he become a great athlete, he's become a great student athlete, even after with his autism, that he's able to overcome because of my unconditional love. I couldn't have been able to do that if I was working 5-10 jobs in America. And because he's become successful, and he's become a good person, and he's such the most sweetest and kindest boy. If you talk to any of his friends and teachers and loved ones, everybody will say nothing but good, positive things about him. Even when Pico was here, they met. He said he's such a sweet boy, and I made sure of that because I gave him all the love and attention and time that he ever wanted, to make him just the sweetest person ever. And for people to attack him, because of that, there are people going to attack him. Because of that is because they've lost their touch with their humanity, and in their defense, they're not the only ones. There's a sea of people that have lost touch with their humanity. And who am I? Am I the person to say that, like, get in touch with your humanity again? And how is that? By making a difference. Start with yourself and take care of yourself first. Love yourself, and so before you can love others. And through that, you can make a difference. My love for my family, and my love for our friends, even my love for Joy, I use that to make a difference. Of course, you never stop loving people. Once you start loving them, I'm always I still love Joy very much, and I know that she still loves me. There's nothing wrong with loving more than one person. I mean, it's normal, it's universal. And I know if we saw each other again, it will seem like we didn't skip a day. We have our own family, she has her own family, but it doesn't mean that the love we had for each other. And my problem is that there's so many here to love. And the good news is I have so much love to give. And why? Because they want to love somebody they could trust, because that's so important. More important than money, more important than spaghetti dinners, more important than anything is trust. And it's so rare now these days, just like in this movie, just like this character over here. Because of the trust, he was the only trust. He is able to restore hope, restore the future again, because he's the one man that could be trusted. And that's what I do. And that's what I am the metaphor for, because of Joy put her trust in me, put her emotions in me, that she believed in me, that I could introduce her to someone that could give her family a future. Not just only her own family, but her family, her parents, her brothers and sisters, because of my actions, because of my love, and the result of the actions from that love. And when people don't experience this love, they become disconnected, and they don't have this connection to humanity. This is where the brain dead and their cult followers have lost their humanity, because they can't make that connection with people. And over here, because of the poverty and because of the poverty, I don't know how else to describe it, how they lost their humanity over here, and then the corruption. Corruption comes. The source of corruption comes in many forms. This impunity, this kind of absolute power, with, like, for example, these extrajudicial killings. I'm sure I can make references to other movies. People can make in the comments, or what happens if you can just kill without without any repercussions, or no punishments for your actions. So you can get drug money, or you can rape somebody, or what is it that you want? Sex, money, drugs. All you have to do is kill somebody, and there's gonna be no punishment for it. Of course, it's like, you're not supposed to kill another person over money, or you're not supposed to kill another person so you could rape them. That's what the humane thing, the humanity of it all. Just like in that video, several videos of the police over here, where they're just killing people in cold blood, where they're just like, okay, I'm just gonna pull out a gun and just right in front of the camera, just shoot you and your child. They'll kill women and children for no reason, because they've lost their touch with humanity. And it's a scary world now because of it, and you have to be informed of it. And who is going to be the person to save humanity? Who's going to be the only one that's going to be trusted? And well, in this movie, it's Theo over here. And thanks to him, because he's the one that can be trusted. So let me wrap this up here. It's already been over an hour. And this video is that, like I said, the COVID vaccine, not only is it similar or a metaphor to the mark of the beast, and also you have to think about, is it foreshadowing to causing, what are the side effects? Well, sterility, where all of a sudden it becomes children of men. 5 years from now, everybody who got the vaccine, it got incorporated into their DNA, into their genetics, and all of a sudden they can't have babies anymore. Or they could, it would have 2 heads or something like that. You don't know. You don't know when the people are playing gods, are playing. And then, like I said, oh, what about the other vaccines? Well, back then, like I said, they just, it's a different situation than it is now. You can't really compare the other vaccines, which are real, that are saving lives, which was naturally how polio was discovered was it was natural. The immunity that was being built was natural, and people just kind of enhanced it. Same thing with what was it? Same thing with HIV. I mean, look, nobody's forced to take HIV vaccines or HIV or AIDS. You could still travel with AIDS. You could still buy food. You could still go to work even if you have HIV. Look at Magic Johnson is HIV. So it's a completely different situation because this COVID. COVID is actually even more serious when it comes to how it's related to the mark of the beast, and even worse, what happens if it kills an entire generation because everybody is forced to it. And then what we have to look forward to is then more brain dead and more brain dead cult followers in this dystopia society because they're looking for a purpose. And then you're left is with me is hope. That's what, and it's not just me saying it, it's Quincy saying it. It's about the future. It's like, what about when he was talking about the future of Bell? It's only, he wasn't talking about my future. He was talking about the future of the girls like Joy, because Joy is not the only pretty girl that needs a chance, to be given a chance. Whether she takes it or not, that's free will. I have no say, and what I can do is just give them the chance and give them the opportunity. And through my love and hard work and trust, just like Joy trusted me, there is hope for the future. And if I'm that hope, then and let it be. It's definitely not going to be brain dead. It's like, what have you done brain dead other than just make yourself wealthy? And that's why he needs to be reported to the Bureau of Immigration. And it's like, what did you do with this money that you made from exploiting your milking the cow for free? What have you done? Right? All you did was benefit yourself. All right. Everybody's seen what I've done. I haven't done anything. I still drive the same crappy car. Everything is the same. I didn't use it to exploit, to gain my own financial advantage. Everything I have done is for the girls to benefit from. And if I have my own financial, even charities have their, even Quincy said this, even charities have their administrative costs. Of course, I have my administrative costs, right? I have to get equipment. I have to get cameras. I have to look at this camera. Look at how it's shaking. Every time I'm just talking. I need a camera that will stabilize and has good focusing. So I know my methods over here are like rudimentary, but that's, you're not coming to my videos because it's production value, because I have no money for production value. What you see is what you get. So the humanity, people lose their humanity for several different reasons. So one over here is because of the poverty and the corruption. So people have lost their humanity. So the corruption, the police can pretty much do and kill or murder whoever they want for their own personal reasons, for money. So they can rape, and then they lost their humanity because of it. Well, you're not supposed to do that to other people, regardless if there's no because of even then, because of the golden rule, but because of the corruption, they'll continue just like they did with the Korean businessman. And also, if you're in this situation, is if you have no future of just like children of men, if you've disconnected from your family, you have no more family, you have no more legacy. Just like with Brain Dead when he made the video about me. I don't know about now. Maybe that's why he came to my channel to apologize, is because he has a child now and he's not selfish anymore, and that he has to be thinking of the child's future. And one of the things he was thinking about was he's going to get deported for attacking me. And his argument, well, I made that before I had a child. I would never have done it if I didn't have a child. But that's not an excuse. You should have never done it in the first place, is what I'm saying. And and then he says, well, you live and you learn. Well, being deported is part of living and learning, just like me going in prison is part of living and learning. The important thing about me is I went through this experience. If anything, I went through this. I was talking to Jim Bob about this. Is one of the things is at least I went through the experience of going to prison just to prove that I'm not doing anything illegal. Now that's going to upset a lot of people because everybody just look at their comments, is that they're accusing me of I'm guilty of a heinous crime, even though the judges have already said it. And I've already proven time and time again, it's not because of a technicality. It's because you can't be a virgin and cry rape. You can't have your hymen and still cry that I've been human trafficked. And this is not the Minority Report where you'll say, oh, that's what his intentions was his purpose. Well, the laws are still, a crime still has to be committed, not it has to be the intention. This is not one of the situations where it's like, oh, I'm going to kill you, then you're going to charge me with murder and I'm going to go to prison because I threatened you. We still live in a society, or we still live in the laws where a crime has to be actually committed for a person to be guilty. I know that's going to be a loss on a lot of people, especially people who lost their humanity. And they're going to twist and corrupt things, and so they can justify their thoughts and their actions to give them something. And it's sad, but like the Limey said, because they have no purpose in life and they have no future, they have no hope. And here's the funny part, if you watch Children of Men, they all have dogs, they all have cats, they all have pets. Okay, so if you had actually, okay, you might not have a future, but go out there and get a dog and walk it, so you have something to do. Now you could probably make the argument that yeah, you can walk it, but it doesn't give you the same thrill as attacking another human being. I'll probably give you that, but you only have one life to live, and if that's the life that you chose, that the path that you chosen, it's trolls. And in a dystopian society, of course, you're going to have people that have to fill those roles. Every role has to be filled, but you still have free choice. Like I said, you're not destined to preordained to be a cult follower. You're not determined to be a cult follower. You still have free choice, and you can still make that choice. So this is probably my message to Brain Dead and his cult followers. You still have a choice to make. You can go back to being human again and being in touch with your humanity and attacking it. But if you're just as happy as being ignorant, because ignorance is bliss, that's also the other argument, just like in the Matrix, you don't want to know, then of course people have to fill those roles. And I guess the question is, am I the one to burst your bubble? Who am I to burst your bubble? Is probably and that's probably another reason why people will attack me, because they can't do what I can do, and then on top of that, I'm bursting their bubble at the same time. What should I do then? Right? You're saying all these things, but I'm on disability. I can't do anything. I have no friends. Look at me. And it's like, well, what is the problem? Then get off disability. Then get a job, get a skill. Well, I'm too lazy. Well, then stop being lazy then, okay? And then your argument is going to be that, like, well, the government's making me lazy because I make more money staying at home and attacking you and making these troll comments and going out there and being productive and getting a job. Oh my gosh. Okay, I give up. then you go, stay being a troll then, see? And then we're back to where we were. But like I said, this is your life. And maybe I'm here to inspire you to say, don't be just a troll just because it's easy, just because it's ignorance is bliss. There's a different type of level of happiness out there. Go out there and enjoy it. Go out there and enjoy life, because there's more. You'll get more fulfillment in life, and you wouldn't be attacking other people. And there's like, well, you're attacking Brain Dead. Well, he needs to be made an example of what will happen to you if you don't get in touch with your humanity, because he attacked another innocent human being because he has no humanity, and people have to know what the consequences are if you don't. You can't make it look like that he does something wrong and he does something illegal and he does something bad to another human being and be able to get away with it. And then I'm just as guilty as because I allowed him to do it, as the person who's actually doing it, because I didn't do anything about it, because I didn't fulfill my civic duty. And if you nerds out there who play Risk, what happens to people when they don't do their civic duty? They kind of get ostracized, and then they kind of get blacklisted. Well, I don't want to be like that. I want to do my civic duty while I'm playing Risk. So anyway, that's let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Do you agree or disagree, or do you see that that's a possibility, that this mark of the beast of COVID vaccine being forced upon people so you can participate in this modern society's transaction? Is it the mark of the beast? Is it a possibility also that there are side effects in the future? And what would you think if the side effects are it makes a whole generation sterile? And do you believe that if there is no more, if in one generation the human race will cease to exist? Do you agree or disagree that this will happen? And do you think it's happening now? Because a small portion, it is happening in like, for example, countries where the population is shrinking. I know in Australia there are a lot of men that are choosing to become sterile voluntarily. Why? Because they don't want the future. There is no future. They don't like the future. Why would they want to? One of the funny aspects of Children of Men is they have this commercial where they were saying this quietest, it's coming to my memory now, this quietest drug. It's the funniest thing. It's like a suicide drug. So you're just, and what they're choosing is to become voluntarily becoming sterile, so their generation dies, their legacy dies with them. You can make the argument that like, oh, well, I'm doing it because there's plenty, it's overpopulated already, so I'm not doing it because I'm voluntarily sterilizing it. So I'm doing it because euthanizing my legacy, my future, because I don't want the future. So that's why they're commercially making it viable, this euthanism drug. So a lot of things. So let me know what you think about that. This voluntarily becoming sterile, and now it's being forced upon you to become sterile through this COVID vaccine. Let me know what you think about it. You think that's a possibility, and what would you do if that's a possibility? And if you were in the story of Children of Men, which one would you be? Everybody knows already who I'm going to be, because I'm the only one that can be trusted here in the Philippines. And just like in this story over here, he was the main hero because he was the only one that can be trusted. Let me know what you think in the comments. Like I said, usually when I make a bold statement like that, like I said, I follow it up with evidence, cold hard facts, black and white. Like I said, one example is the girl that is the main star witness of the prosecution, that they made the girl that they made a medical legal report on was actually a virgin. Okay, so you can trust me because she's still a virgin. You can't say the same thing about Brain Dead. Okay, so that's one argument, easily, hands down, right? And then I could also say that I have the court documents saying the judges cleared me of any wrongdoing, of anything illegal. maybe that's the reason why I had to do this, why I went through this, have to do this, just to prove, just to settle the argument. Am I doing anything illegal? The answer is absolutely. Absolutely, I'm doing everything I'm doing is perfectly legal and nothing against the law. Okay, now there's going to be stupid people, obviously, that are going to not believe the judges, or not going to believe the evidence, or not going to believe the ruling, because they're cult followers. They're just like brain dead. And why? Because they've just lost their touch with humanity. They want to keep attacking, and they want to continue being violent. If that's the case, then you should reflect, you should acknowledge, and you should be self-aware, so you can do something about it. But if not, like I said, life has to be full of, you've got good guys and you've got bad guys, and somebody has to be the bad guys so they could be the good guys. At least you know over here who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. Anyway, this is Bebwoods Only. This has gone long enough. I'll see you guys in the next video. Let me know in the comments what you think. And do you believe that brain, like I said, is brain dead and his cult followers just like it is here in this movie? Do you agree with that? My analysis, are they just like the rioters and the violent religious extremists here in this movie? If you agree that they're similar to this, let me know in the comments. And do you agree because they've lost their hope, their connection with humanity, because they have no future? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the next vlog. This is Bebwoods Only. Thanks for watching.